Yeah, so we're here to recognize Ernie Jones, one of our PBEM employees. I see him on the screen. Thanks for coming in, Ernie. Ernie was one of the first people that I met at PBEM, actually, just prior to when I started even in this job. He gave me a lot of good insight of what was before me. After I started, though, I learned that even when most city employees were remote, Ernie actually preferred working in person at the city's emergency coordination center. So I've actually been fortunate to have many conversations with him that I've enjoyed through the time that I've been here. And he may not know this, but I've actually had a lot of great insight from Ernie that has driven policy and process for far beyond just his program. And much of this will leave an impact far into the future. Ernie has built a unique program here in Portland. You'll learn a little bit about that here in a second, but it's made our community actually more resilient. And let me put that in context. This is not an understatement. His program is probably the single most important effort that will help save lives and connect Portlanders in the event of a major catastrophe such as the Cascadia earthquake. That's a big, big impact that Ernie will have left here for the city. But his reach extends well beyond his own program, and he's helped others in our bureau and in our city achieve success. And why is that? That's because Ernie always asks the right questions and gives his thoughtful and insightful perspective. Ernie's never afraid to interrupt a conversation and ask something to really set us all back and say, okay, we need to take a different direction. And I so appreciated Ernie doing that throughout his time. Though we'll miss you seeing you here, Ernie, and as a PBEM employee, we fully expect you to stay in touch and to stop by from time to time so we can catch up and see how you're doing. I'm trying to find a way to lose your retirement paperwork so we can keep you, but I don't know if that's a possibility. But really, seriously, thank you for your contributions to PBEM. Thank you for improving the Portland community's resilience and being a part of our team. And I'm going to turn this over to a former interim director here for PBEM and currently a chief resilience officer for the state of Oregon, Jana Papaefthimiou, who has worked closely with Ernie as well and can provide a different perspective. Jana?
Thanks, Shad. For the record, my name is Jana Papaefthimiou, and it is such a total delight to be here as a part of this to honor Ernie, who's been a treasured coworker for most of my years at PBEM. As some folks are probably familiar, Ernie ran the Basic Earthquake Emergency Communication Node program, the BEECN program. These are a program that's designed to connect Portlanders after a major earthquake when other communications efforts fail. And it would be hard to get information or ask for help any other way. The beacons are supply caches that are positioned all over Portland. There's more than 50 of them, each hidden away in a neighborhood and staffed with emergency volunteers ready to pop open when we need them most. Ernie is a person who supported, matured, and managed that program, which is, to our knowledge, totally unique in the United States. And Ernie was a perfect person to do this work because he has such a remarkable skill set. He managed site license agreements and real estate rentals for 50 different locations with all kinds of property owners and specific strange concerns and considerations and rules. He managed all the materials in the caches, first aid and batteries and radios. He became very proficient in amateur radio operation. Then he also learned about public procurement. He learned about material storage. Then he had to recruit volunteers, hundreds of volunteers, and he had to train all of them and keep them on rosters, and he'd do regular exercises for them to practice. Ernie, in his time at the city, has been a real estate agent, a program administrator, a radio operator, a buyer, a recruiter, a teacher, and in all things, a diplomat who really kept his program growing and kept learning through the entire time. I'll also say Ernie is a completely delightful human to work with. He's the guy who puts gas in the car. He is the guy who empties out the dishwasher in the break room. If he sees you in the parking lot with the box, he will stand there and hold open the door until you get inside. And although he runs his own complicated program, he would never hesitate to show up for any emergency purpose of the Bureau, whether it's winter weather shelters or distributing PPE in the pandemic. And I have to say, after working more than a dozen natural disasters with Ernie, his go-to swear word is still, golly gee willikers. know it is. Ernie will be terribly missed at the Bureau, but he will find many worthwhile pursuits in retirement because he is an avid cyclist, he's a hiker, he's a photographer, he's a world traveler. He knows a lot about music. He's very knowledgeable in natural history. He once sailed around the South Pacific to study giant bats because why not? That's a cool job. Ernie has a lot of other lives to live. I know he's a person, there's no danger he'll be bored in retirement, but I just hope that our paths will continue to cross because I want to hear about his adventures and continue to learn from him as a role model of resilience, lifelong curiosity, and unfailing kindness. Thank you, Ernie. Your friendship meant so much to me the entire time I was at the city. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
And next up, we have a community volunteer, but I see Commissioner Maps, you have a hand up. I didn't know.
I was just queuing up for comments later. Please continue with the presentation.
Great. We'll turn it over to a community volunteer who Ernie worked closely with, Bruce Schaefer. Are you on?
I am. Good morning, everyone. I've been a volunteer with the Portland Neighborhood Emergency Team program since 2018. I met Ernie the first time during my basic training, and I've enjoyed working with him in many capacities since. He trained me and hundreds of others on roles as volunteers for the BEECN program that you just learned about. I've also benefited from Ernie's leadership during many quarterly meetings of what we call the Radio Training Liaison Team for the Portland Neighborhood Emergency Team program. His collaborative leadership style has extended to improving the BEECN program's support both at the Emergency Coordination Center and at the Portland fire stations, where we have a radio communication that goes to the coordination center. Ernie has consistently addressed challenges with confidence, together with a positive collaborative approach. He's made many improvements and services to Portland residents, as you know, in the area of emergency preparedness. Ernie leaves behind a huge vacuum, which will be difficult to fill. His many contributions will be remembered by me and my fellow volunteers for many years to come. But I look forward to staying in touch with Ernie as he becomes one of us, retired folks doing volunteer work. Go, Ernie.
Thank you, Bruce. And you're giving me some ideas of how we can keep him around, maybe. So we'll convert you to a volunteer and keep you. And now Ernie would like to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Shad, and everyone. Really appreciate it. I can't tell you, this is a very humbling experience. And again, this is Ernie Jones, I've been with the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management for 8 years, as was mentioned. I've really enjoyed working with the really smart and engaged people across the city, especially at the Bureau of Emergency Management. It's truly been a pleasure. I wanted to say I also was, so in 2015, when I was hired, I was the 14th person hired at the Bureau. And at that time, that was the biggest the Bureau had ever been. We're now at about 22, 23 people, and it continues to be a dynamic, growing place in a really positive way. I'm indebted to my incredibly supportive current and former colleagues, especially Jeremy Van Kuren, Glenn Devitt, and Jana Papefthemu. And also of great support have been to me as an employee of the city, have been the employees resource groups, which we used to call affinity groups, and especially the Black Space group and the Always Eat Together group, which is also a Black employee support group. I was 57 years old when I was hired, and I have to tell you, it wasn't easy getting a good job at that age, but hopefully I've shown that hiring an older worker has been a good thing for everyone, especially me, but everyone. But most significantly and lastly, I wanted to say that organizations, the city government is an organization, and organizations are about relationships, and the many positive relationships I've developed during my time have continued and do continue to feed me, and I truly want to express my my appreciation for that. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I'm happy to hand this over to my colleagues for any comments.
All right, very good. We'll start with Commissioner Maps.
First, I want to start off by thanking Commissioner Gonzalez for bringing this item forward. And I want to thank Ernie for his service to our city. Today, I think we've learned that Ernie is a compelling candidate for the most interesting man in the world. As we know, he's worked for the city's Bureau of Emergency Management since 2015, where he's been a driving force behind the city's efforts to plan for a major earthquake. Mr. Jones is also a reservist with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. In that capacity, he's worked over 20 natural disasters, including Superstorm Sandy, Hurricane Katrina, and 9/11. And Ernie has also served as an elections monitor for the U.S. State Department in places like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Moldova. You know, careers like Mr. Jones's and events like the ice storm we are experiencing this morning are reminders of how important the work done by our team at the Bureau of Emergency Management is. And that's why I am so glad to take this moment to thank Ernie for his service to our city. And I'm so glad to join my colleagues on this council to declare January 17th, 2024 to be Ernie Jones Day of Appreciation. Thank you so much, Ernie, and please come back and visit us in City Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mapps. Commissioner Rubio.
Thank you, Mayor. I haven't had the pleasure of knowing Ernie directly, but it's been a real pleasure getting to know about you, Ernie, through the proclamation and talking to some of your coworkers. And given all the incredible things I've learned about you, I just want to honor you for your steadfast and tireless work over the past 3 decades in Portland and across the nation, as we've heard. And it's evident that you've spent the majority of your life making sure that we're all prepared for difficult situations and challenging emergencies. And you've been a real lifeline to our community at really challenging times. So we all owe you a huge debt of gratitude for all of your service. I also want to say that what really stood out about your leadership is that you deeply care not just about the work that you're doing, but about the community in general. And you truly go above and beyond the call of your work. And I want to thank you especially for your work in election monitoring, in delivering ballots to people with physical disabilities, and also helping to evaluate contested ballots at the Multnomah County Elections Office. There's a famous quote by JFK about gratitude that says that we should never forget the highest appreciation is not to just utter words, but to live by them. And you, Ernie Jones, live by your words. And so because you do, you've made such a difference to countless people in our community. And we appreciate you so much. And you've set an important example for this city and for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Ernie Jones Day. I can see why. I don't know you well at all. I know of you. And you're my new favorite person just by listening to everyone's comments. And, you know, service is so much about relationships and about just being present. And when you see a job, it's yours. And you can just tell that you live by those simple values. And you've just had such a big impact on everyone who testified today. I was delighted to hear people giving you hints about how they hope that you continue to be connected and in service and in relationship with our city, because we really need you. And I'll just end my comments by saying, I hope that you write a book about service. Your kindness is something we really need in our city right now. And I just want to thank you so much for being here today and with your humble stance, receiving all the love and gratitude that's coming your way. Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Ernie, I'm proud today, just like the prior speakers, to honor you on not just your accomplishments here at the City of Portland, but for your amazing commitment to the Portland region. Through your work with the City of Portland, you have made this whole community a safer place to live. I wish you rest and relaxation in your retirement, although hopefully it's not a full retirement, and know that you've left the city in better shape than you found it. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Ernie, I want to jump in here too and just say how much I appreciate your service, not just to the city of Portland, but in all of your endeavors over many, many decades. And I'll just say on a slightly humorous note, I think one of the most productive groups of people in our community, the people who give and give and give, tend to be people who have failed at retirement. And so while I wish you the very best in your future endeavors, I have a feeling you're not going to be one of those guys who just sort of settles down in retirement. And I hope you will continue to stay as engaged as you have over the years. And I think it's actually a really good thing, Commissioner Gonzalez, that you brought this forward today, because we just saw the importance of emergency management. Nobody thinks about emergency management at all until the proverbial whatever hits the fan. And then all of a sudden, we are all completely dependent upon the success of those operations. And so I want to take this moment, Ernie, not only to thank you, but all of our first responders, our PBOT folks, all the line workers, all the people who are out there right now trying to recover the greater Portland area from snow and then ice and wind and whatever else has happened that I don't know about. It takes planning. These events don't just happen and then everybody springs into action. As you well know, through your dedicated service, it requires a lot of advanced planning and tabletop exercises and what-if scenarios. And the folks who do this work really don't get the appreciation I think they deserve. And Commissioner Gonzalez, I want to personally thank you for bringing Ernie Jones Day forward, because honestly, our city employees don't get the credit they deserve. It is very much in vogue right now to be hypercritical of public employees, particularly at the local level. And it's not unique to Portland. This is something, my mayoral colleagues and I discuss about just national trends. The people who do the hard work at the local level deserve credit for their dedication and their service to our communities. And Ernie, you are an exemplary, incredible guy. But as you well know, there's lots of people out there like you, with you, doing this hard work day in and day out. And by recognizing you, by extension, we're recognizing their good works too. John, it's great to see you here virtually. You just can't get out of our vortex, can you? So John, as I should just mention while she's in front of us, is going to be the governor's primary contact during this upcoming 90-day joint emergency declaration around fentanyl. And so she's already been working closely with my staff and the county staff and others to help coordinate. And so John, I just want to acknowledge your hard work here too. So sorry, a little more long-winded than I want. That's what happens when there's nothing between me and my caffeine. Commissioner Gonzalez, you are going to read the proclamation on behalf of all of us. And I think I'm going to take up the last paragraph. Is that correct?
That sounds good to me.
All right, sir, go ahead.
Whereas Ernie Jones spent the last 30 years of his career as a public servant, the last 8 of which were with the city of Portland for the Portland Bureau of Emergency Management. And whereas Ernie Jones built our community's basic earthquake emergency communications nodes, BEECN program. Following a disaster like an earthquake, community members will be able to call for emergency assistance from a beacon. Whereas Ernie trained hundreds of volunteers across the Portland metro area on amateur radio use for emergency communications. And whereas Ernie was a steadfast City of Portland employee, staffing the city's emergency coordination center through some of the most difficult and challenging times in recent memory, including the unprecedented global COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas prior to his time at PBEM, Ernie worked 55 presidentially declared emergencies in more than half of the states in the United States, and one territory for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. And whereas Ernie has also served Multnomah County and the global community through his work in election monitoring, delivering ballots to people with physical disabilities, and helping to evaluate contested ballots for approximately a dozen elections at Multnomah County Elections Office. And whereas Ernie served as a U.S. State Department election monitor since 2005. This work has taken him to far reaches of Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Moldova, and beyond. And whereas Ernie has demonstrated an exemplary commitment to the city of Portland and to Portlanders, and has modeled true public service throughout his career by making his community a more prepared and resilient place. And whereas Ernie is retiring today from PBEM, where he has served under 6 bureau directors and 4 elected officials.
Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim January 17th, 2024, to be Ernie Jones Day of Appreciation in Portland, and encourage all Portlanders to observe this day. Thank you, Ernie. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much.